Winterlight is a 1962 Swedish drama film written and directed by Ingmar Bergman and starring Bergman regulars Gunnar B.J. Strand, Ingrid Thulin and Max von Sydow. The film follows Thomas Eriksson, pastor of a small rural Swedish church, as he deals with existential crisis in his Christianity. Weekend is a 1967 black comedy film written and directed by Jean-Luc Godard and starring Meryl Dark and Jean Yen, both of whom were mainstream French TV stars. Jean-Pierre Elod, iconic comic star of numerous French New Wave films including Truffaut's Les Quatre Cent Coups and Godard's earlier Masculine, F. Minen, also appears in two roles. 12 Angry Men is a 1957 American drama film adapted from a teleplay of the same name by Reginald Rose. Written and co-produced by Rose himself and directed by Sidney Lumet, this trial film tells the story of a jury made up of 12 men as they deliberate the guilt or acquittal of a defendant on the basis of reasonable doubt. Night of the Living Dead is a 1968 American independent zombie horror film directed by George A. Romero, starring Wayne Jones, Judith O'Dea and Carl Harmon. It premiered on October 1, 1968, and was completed on a $114,000 budget. City Lights is a 1931 American romantic comedy film written by, directed by, and starring Charlie Chaplin. The story follows the misadventures of Chaplin's tramp as he falls in love with a blind girl and develops a turbulent friendship with an alcoholic millionaire. The Devils is a 1971 British historical drama horror film directed by Ken Russell and starring Oliver Reed and Vanessa Redgrave. Russell's screenplay is based partially on the 1952 book The Devils of Loudun by Aldous Huxley, and partially on the 1960 play The Devils by John Whiting, also based on Huxley's book. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is a 1986 American comedy film written, produced and directed by John Hughes. The film follows high school senior Ferris Bueller, who skips school and spends the day in downtown Chicago. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a 1974 American slasher film, directed and produced by Tobe Hooper, who co-wrote it with Kim Henkel. It stars Marilyn Burns, Paul A. Partain, Edwin Neal, Jim Saito and Gunnar Hansen, who respectively portray Sally Hardesty, Franklin Hardesty, the hitchhiker, the proprietor, and Leatherface, the main antagonist. Sal Coma or the 120 Days of Sodom, commonly referred to as simply Sal Coma, is a 1975 Italian-French art film written and directed by Pier Paolo Pasolini, with uncredited writing contributions by Pupi Avati. Delicatessen is a 1991 French film, directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet and Marc Caro, starring Dominique Pinon and Karen Viard. It is set in an apartment building in a post-apocalyptic France of an ambiguous time period. Stalker is a 1979 art film directed by Andrei Tarkovsky, with its screenplay written by Boris and Arkady Strugitsky. Loosely based on the novel The Roadside Picnic, the film features a mixture of elements from the science fiction genre with dramatic philosophical and psychological themes. Inland Empire is a 2006 mystery film written and directed by David Lynch and was his first feature film since 2001's Mulholland Drive. The feature took 2.5 years to complete, and was Lynch's first film to have been shot entirely in standard definition digital video. It's a Wonderful Life is a 1946 American Christmas fantasy comedy drama film produced and directed by Frank Capra, based on the short story The Greatest Gift, which Philip Van Dorenstern wrote in 1939 and published privately in 1945. The Elephant Man is a 1980 American-British biographical film about Joseph Merrick, a severely deformed man in 19th-century London. The film was directed by David Lynch and stars John Hurt, Anthony Hopkins, Anne Bancroft, John Gielgud, Wendy Hiller, Michael Elphick, Hannah Gordon and Freddie Jones. Crash is a 1996 Canadian-British psychological thriller film written and directed by David Cronenberg based on J.G. Ballard's 1973 novel of the same name. It tells the story of a group of people who take sexual pleasure from car accidents, a notable form of paraphilia. Opening Night is a 1977 American drama film written and directed by John Cassavetes, and starring Gina Rowlands, Ben Gaura, Joan Blondell, Paul Stewart, Saoirse Lampert, and Cassavetes. Blue Velvet is a 1986 American mystery thriller requiem, written and directed by David Lynch. The film stars Kyle MacLachlan, Isabella Rossellini, Dennis Hopper and Laura Dern. The title is taken from the Clovers' 1955 song of the same name. Werkmeister Harmonies is a 2000 Hungarian film directed by Béla Tarr, based on the 1989 novel The Melancholy of Resistance by Laszlo Krasznahorkai. Shot in black and white and composed of 39 languidly paced shots, the film is about Janos and his uncle Georgi during the Soviet occupation of Hungary at the end of the Second World War. Persona is a 1966 black and white Swedish film written and directed by Ingmar Bergman and starring Bibi Andersson and Liv Ullmann. Persona's story revolves around a young nurse named Alma and her patient, a well-known stage actress named Elizabeth Vogler, who has suddenly ceased to speak. A Woman Under the Influence is a 1974 American drama film written and directed by John Cassavetes. It focuses on a woman whose unusual behavior leads her husband to commit her for psychiatric treatment and the effect this has on their family. Aguirre, The Wrath of God, known in the UK as Aguirre, Wrath of God, is a 1972 West German epic film written and directed by Werner Herzog. Klaus Kinski stars in the title role. The soundtrack was composed and performed by German progressive, crotchet band Popol Vuh. Eraserhead is a 1977 American surrealist body horror film written and directed by filmmaker David Lynch. Shot in black and white, Eraserhead is Lynch's first feature-length film, coming after several short works. Dawn of the Dead is a 1978 Italian-American horror drama film written and directed by George A. Romero. It was the second film made in Romero's Living Dead series, but contains no characters or settings from Night of the Living Dead, and shows in a larger scale the apocalyptic effects on society.